As of last night, I came back from a week of 31 performances at the Magic Castle, and in every show I performed this, the long and short of it, and in every show I looked forward to performing it. What is it? Well, it's 4 pieces of wood in a burgundy sack, and with those pieces of wood, depending on your audience, you could explain the power of suggestion, or demonstrate quality control, explain why you flunked geography, or maybe talk about the time you bought that thing from IKEA. You could also take the approach I took.
Well, a lot of you came here to see magic tricks, I understand that. And many of you came here to hear a discussion of classical architecture. Well, in an effort to please everyone, I brought a little pouch with me, a little pouch with which we can discuss all the nuances of classical architecture. It's all in there. That's where it will happen. Ever go to Old England, Greece, Rome? All those cities look beautiful. The reason is they were designed with classic forms, standardized shapes. Let me show you what I mean. This is called the standard arch. That is the short arch. There's also a long arch. There's the short and the long. It's hard to see the size differential, but if you double it up, it becomes more pronounced. The short and the long. Short and long. They're color-coded for ease. Now that you understand the short and the long, you get the idea? Let's talk about the short. The short arch is an interesting one because we're making windows or doors. Oh, you thought this was the... Some people get confused. No, they're color-coded. This is the short, and the red are the long. It's short and long. Very clear, short and long. You can look at these just pieces of wood. They don't get bigger. They don't get smaller. Short. Oh, I'm sorry. Look. No, you're right. And oh, you're right. I'm wrong. Forgive me, because they're also labeled. Because you'd want to do that, right? These are the short, which must mean these are the long. Of course, short and long. Short is very. Just you can look at them. They're pieces of wood. Thank you. There are variations you can do along the way, which makes it really useful in architecture. You could have a short long, a different sort of arch. It'll always match another short long, of course. A short long matches a short long. Or you can make it a long short. A long short will always match another long short. Of course, they have to. Where it gets interesting is if you take the long short and you make that a short long. That, of course, will be shorter than a long short for obvious reasons. Now, it gets interesting, though, if you take that, take the long short, make that a short long, make the short long a long short, that'll have to be longer than the short long, even though it was a long short just a moment ago. I think because the word long comes first. I'm not exactly positive, but it's something like that. At least we know one thing. 2 shorts will always be smaller than 2 long. It does get a little muddy, I admit that, especially when you realize each one is exactly the same size. That, folks, is the long and the short of it. Yes, we learn, we grow, we change. It was educational as well.
Yeah, too much.
What is it we do? Well, we amaze and amuse, and the long and short of it in a space of about 3 minutes does both. If you've ever traveled around, you've noticed these old cities look beautiful. Old England, Greece, Rome, there's a reason for that. These classical architects use what they call standardized forms. In other words, this is an arch. It's called the standard arch. This is the short arch. This is the long arch. They had 2. And by using these 2 arches, you can make these beautiful windows, beautiful doors. It's hard to see the difference in size. Here. When you have 2 next to each other, it's much more pronounced. So there you can see the short and the long arch. Now, let's just talk about the short arch for now. The short arch, oh, you thought that was the short arch? No. They're color-coded so you can tell the difference. You have the short arch and the long arch. I know it's difficult. It's a difficult concept to grasp. Short and long. So now that you understand the basic idea, let me... Oh. Maybe you're right. These are labeled. This is the short arch. They're labeled on the other side, which is something you'd want to do if you're going to build something. So you have the short arch, you have the long arch. It's a very simple concept, but there are variations. Variations here. For instance, here, you can take a short and a long, and it'll always match another short long. They're exactly the same, a short long with a short long. But what if you make it a long short? Well, they're still going to be the same because long short matches a long short. It gets weird when you take the long short and make it a short long. A short long will, of course, be shorter than a long short. It is weird, isn't it? A short long is shorter than a long short. And even stranger is if you take that same long short and make it a short long, then it'll be shorter than the other if you make it a long short. It's because the word long comes first, I think. The only thing we know for sure is that two shorts will always be smaller than two longs. Just get a little muddy in there. And even more strange is when you consider the fact that every piece is exactly the same size. That's the long and short of it.